When Annette Harvey was suffering from paranoid delusions about her husband leading a cult and coming to kill her, she called on her longtime hometown friend for help. But when her friend suddenly stood between her and custody of her kids, their relationship took a deadly turn. This is the story of Robin Leonard, the Tennessee college professor who was stabbed to death by her childhood friend. Hi friends, I'm Katie, and this is Katie Does Crime. Thank you for joining me for the first time if you're new here, and hello to the usual rapscallions and reprobates. Please consider subscribing or joining me on Patreon if you'd like to hear more true crime stories. On January 18th, 2021, a 911 call was made from a home in Johnson City, Tennessee, but was quickly disconnected. When the police arrived at the house on Hamilton Street, they found out why. A trail of blood and bloody footprints ran through the house, from the front porch to the back door and onto the driveway. At one end of the trail was 50-year-old Robin Leonard, who had been stabbed 15 times in her torso. She also had defensive wounds to her arms and hands. Her thumb had almost been cut off, but she was amazingly still alive, and she said, "Annette Harvey did this to me." Indeed, Annette's purse was found in Robin's bedroom, and the house was in complete disarray, furniture upturned and blood on several household items, including on a baseball bat by the front door. Tire tracks in the snow behind the house showed where someone had backed into a fence and left behind broken parts of their vehicle. The injured Robin was taken to the hospital in cardiac arrest under critical condition and put on life support. She had enough brain damage that doctors didn't believe she had a chance of recovering. 51-year-old Annette Harvey was found in Bristol hours later and charged with attempted first-degree murder. She was held at the Washington County Detention Center on $100,000 bond. Robin's son Alex sat by her bedside for 11 days, holding her hand and reading Harry Potter to her as she had so many times to him. They were the last books she had read to him as a child before he had to know what was going to happen next and started reading to himself. On January 29, 2021, Robin Leonard died from her stab wounds, and the charge against Annette Harvey was changed to first-degree murder. Robin had been a professor at East Tennessee State University and was by all counts beloved. The ETSU Psychology Department posted a memorial to her on their Facebook page the day after her death that read, "Friends, it is with heavy hearts that we have some very sad news to share. Last night, a beloved member of the psychology faculty, Ms. Robin Leonard, passed away. Known to many of her adoring students as Miss Robin, she was described by her son Alex as passing away the same way she lived, with generosity. She saved 3 lives by donating organs to those in need." After achieving her master's from ETSU in 2005, Robin stayed on to teach and quickly became one of the most sought-after instructors in the department. Our psychology advisors recall countless students telling them that they need to take a Robin class before they graduated. Many students returned to take as many classes with her as they could. Robin may have carried one of the heaviest course loads on campus, regularly teaching 8 or 9 courses a semester, and somehow finding ample enthusiasm, passion, care, and knowledge to bring to each one. Given how many of our courses she has taught, almost every psychology major at ETSU in the last 10 years has probably taken at least one course from Robin. She shared her knowledge with other departments too, teaching courses for the HGAL and sociology, anthropology departments as well. Many students have gone on to majors or careers in psychology because Robin inspired them. Robin was a shining light in our department, and the world is a little dimmer today without her in it. ETSU will be hosting a celebration of life sometime in the near future. In the meantime, her son Alex also provides this guidance. Go call your parents, give them a hug. Alex told the Johnson City Press that his mom wasn't a perfect person, but that she had more than made up for any wrongs in her past with her passion for diversity and equality. She was also just plain smart. Her intelligence had been recognized by high school administrators who suggested that she take college classes early. She had started college at the age of 16 before having to drop out when her dad died. Maybe it was his death that caused Robin to go through a little wild period where Alex was born to her very young. She didn't marry his dad, but was married to a physically and mentally abusive man for a while. After she finally left him, that's when she went back to school and worked 3 restaurant jobs to be able to pay for it. Then she worked 3 college teaching jobs once she earned her master's degree. It's like she just couldn't slow down. But a heart attack at the age of 39 finally forced Robin to take a step back and focus on just one job. That's how she became the full-time professor at ETSU, teaching psychology classes that students called life-changing. Her son said she was always giving, even in the times they had the least. She let one friend sleep on their couch for 2 years. He called her a staunch defender of everyone, unafraid to confront anyone who was being racist or spreading hate. A friend called her thoughtful, generous, and kind. Alex agreed, saying she was so charismatic, her laugh so infectious. Everyone, he said, got along with my mom. So why would someone stab her? Well, the story goes that Robin and her killer, Annette, were longtime friends, childhood friends in Tennessee who connected at first sight. Annette eventually got married and was living in New Jersey with her 2 daughters until January 2021, when she came back to Tennessee. On January 15th, 3 days before Robin's murder, Annette had left her husband. She was driving with her kids and had a delusion that someone sinister was following her, so she called 911. Then she stopped at a nearby high school basketball game and started causing a disturbance on the court. She seemed disoriented, not herself. A sheriff's officer who was on duty at the school got Annette to agree to go to the Johnson City Medical Center for a mental health evaluation while her daughters were being watched by Children's Services. She also suggested a high school friend who could stay with them for the time being. The Johnson City Press reports that although she did go to the hospital, she left soon after arriving. She never checked in. Upon leaving, Annette called another high school friend of hers, Leonard. Robin's son drove Robin and Annette back to the high school to pick up Annette's kids. They brought along their other high school friend who had been watching the girls, and they all went back to Robin's house. There, the children slept while Annette allegedly talked about her husband, how he was abusive toward her and the leader of a predatory religious cult. Predatory toward kids, if you know what I mean. Robin believed Annette, but their other friend was skeptical. She thought Annette was just out of sorts. Early the next morning, Annette called a taxi in secret to take her and her daughters to a local pastor's house. Along the way, she told the taxi driver that she had kidnapped her kids, so of course he called 911. Authorities found them at a gas station, took the kids, and placed them back with Robin. Robin didn't think her schedule was great for watching the children, but she wanted to help her friend out. The following day, Robin had to go to a family party, so she asked the other high school friend to take care of the kids again, the one who had watched them while Annette was at the hospital during the basketball game. The kids were still with the friend on January 18th when Annette came back to the house and stabbed Robin. In February 2021, Annette declined the usual preliminary hearing and asked to go straight to a grand jury. Her lawyer requested a mental evaluation and said, "The mental state of Mrs. Harvey is going to be an issue. This is one of those terrible, terrible things that happen in our society, and it's going to be a rather lengthy investigation. There are many aspects to Mrs. Harvey's mental state and what happened in that room." He called the stabbing a real tragedy, but said there was a lot more to the story. Annette's bail was raised from $100,000 to $150,000, and the mental health evaluation was approved. Later that year, in September 2021, a judge signed an order for Annette to be examined at the Moccasin Bend Mental Health Institution for 30 days. I wasn't able to find out what came of this evaluation, but obviously Annette was declared fit to stand trial. Her trial began in February 2024, with Annette having pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of especially aggravated burglary. Not just aggravated, but especially aggravated. Her lawyers decided against the insanity defense in the end and went in another direction. They asked for Annette to be considered to have diminished capacity at the time of the murder. This shows that she was in a fragile mental state, but doesn't require the admission of guilt that an insanity defense does. The judge went along with this, but said her lawyers weren't allowed to mention self-defense as a motive. Annette's lawyer said that Robin was an alcoholic and had a shared delusion with Annette. After Annette told Robin that her husband was involved in a cult, Robin had told a neighbor to watch out for this culty husband. I'm not sure it's a delusion to believe your friend when she tells you something, but okay. It sounds like they were blaming Robin for encouraging Annette. A Bristol police officer testified that Annette called 911 a few hours after Robin's stabbing and said she had been hit in the head with a metal baseball bat. Only, she said it was a man who had hit her. She was taken to the hospital where police met with her. She asked them if her friend Robin was in the hospital and if she was able to give a good description of her attacker, instead of, just admitting that she was the attacker. The traffic camera near Robin's house was certainly able to catch a good glimpse of Annette's car on the day of the stabbing, though, so it didn't much matter. On the second day of the trial, an employee with the Department of Children's Services testified that Robin had only agreed to take the children if Annette promised not to come back to her house. He said Annette seemed to understand and agree to that, but Annette did come back to the house with a bag of things for her daughters. But Robin wouldn't let her inside, and that's what started the fight between the two. On the third day, a Johnson City PD investigator testified about the disarray he saw at Robin's house, with drawers pulled from a dresser and blood on the carpet. In Annette's Toyota Camry, he found bloody clothes, a bloody napkin, and a black folding knife with Robin's DNA on it. Annette's broken taillight matched the pieces of a vehicle found at Robin's house after the attack. Robin's sister testified that one of the things lying on Robin's bedroom floor in the crime scene photos was a picture of Robin and Annette as teenagers, which is sad. She said Robin told her at the family party the day before the stabbing that she was worried about Annette's kids. And yes, Robin did believe that Annette's husband was part of some nefarious things, but that's because Robin was the type of person who took people at their word and tried to help them. The lead detective in the case testified that in jailhouse calls to her husband, Annette said she had been framed by Robin because Robin feared for her family. If she told the truth about what happened that day, she was worried someone would come after her son. Annette said what really happened was that she was over at Robin's house to drop off the things for her daughters when intruders emerged from the various rooms in the house and attacked the two women. They had to fight back. And that's when Annette was hit in the head by the baseball bat by one of the intruders. In a later call, Annette admitted that she had made the whole intruder story up, but it was only to protect that violent, crazy drunk Robin. As a side note, Robin's sister testified that at their family party the day before, Robin had all of one alcoholic drink. Annette later told her husband that Robin had actually died of a heart attack, but the authorities were blaming Annette because everyone was apparently just out to get her. Another lie. Annette took the stand the next day and admitted that she had been dealing with her mental health for decades and was formally treated in 2007. She said her delusions about her husband first occurred in November 2020, and she almost seemed to blame Robin for these delusions taking over her life. Because when she told Robin about her husband planning to kill her, Robin believed her and said Annette's husband had been brainwashing her. They worked on gathering evidence against him to present to authorities. Basically, Annette told her delusions to Robin as truth, and then called her a bad friend for not knowing it was all made up. On the night Annette believed she was being followed and turned into the high school where the basketball game was taking place, she said she never checked into the hospital for the mental evaluation. She just left. She said everything and everyone scared her at that time, and that's why she also secretly left Robin's home on January 16th with her kids before they were taken from her. When Annette returned to Robin's home on January 18th, she asked Robin to call their friend who was watching the kids, and Robin said no. That's when the fight ensued. But Annette said she didn't remember much of it, just Robin forcefully bear-hugging her and being hit by the bat. She said that the black folding knife was pretty much always in her back pocket, but she wasn't sure that she used it that day. She didn't trust her memory.
Do you remember the first time you put this knife in Robin Leonard's back?
No, I do not.
What about the 5th time?
I do not.
What about the 10th time?
No, I do not.
What about the 15th time?
No.
Annette's husband testified that he knew she was telling people he was going to kill her, and that's why he didn't follow her when she took their daughters from New Jersey to Tennessee. He said she'd actually been confined to a mental ward in New Jersey around that time for 10 days, but he didn't fear for the safety of their kids. And he didn't want to lend credence to her delusions by actually coming after her, so he let her take the kids and go. He said when he told Annette that Robin was likely going to die, she didn't have much of a reaction. But once she started taking medication in jail, she became her old self again and felt sorry for the stabbing. The trial wrapped up on February 12, 2024, with Annette's defense attorney telling the jury that they had to consider her delusions. She was just protecting her children in her mind. She believed that her daughters were in danger and needed to talk to the friend who was caring for them. He said when Robin wouldn't call the friend, she was basically keeping Annette from being able to be a good mother. The lawyer said we know it wasn't a premeditated murder because Annette's purse was found at Robin's house. He said she would have never brought her purse along if she intended for her hands to be busy murdering Robin. The DA, on the other hand, said Annette fully went to the house that day with the intention to kill. Based on traffic camera sightings, Annette would have had fewer than 12 minutes to arrive at Robin's house, have a conversation that rubbed her the wrong way, start arguing, have a violent, murderous fight, and then be back on the road. Basically, she would have had to come there with her weapon already in hand. He told the jury about a text message where Annette insulted Robin and then later called her and said she loved her. He said Annette was manipulative. The assistant DA said Annette Harvey forced her way into her friend's home and she attacked her. She stabbed her. She slashed her. She killed her. Hold her responsible. Return the verdict that truth dictates. Return the verdict that justice demands. Find her guilty. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and did come back with a guilty verdict. Annette Harvey was convicted of 1 count of first-degree murder by premeditation, 1 count of first-degree murder during the commission of a felony, and 1 count of especially aggravated burglary. Her sentencing is set for May 2024, and she could face life in prison. Robin Leonard always sang The Rose at karaoke, so everyone at her funeral was given a rose to remember her by. The family asked that people skip the flowers and instead give their money to Becky's Pantry, which gives food to needy college students. Her friends and family wore her favorite color, purple, to the trial in honor of Robin. I hope she'll be remembered in the way her son thinks of her, as not just a psychology teacher, but as someone who taught people how to be a good human being. Thank you to Alex Leonard and the wonderful reporting from the Johnson City Press and WJHL for all of the insight into Robin's character. So I'm interested in what you think of this case. There's no question that Annette killed Robin, but what was her frame of mind when she did it? On one hand, Annette wasn't driving fast nor erratically when traffic cameras caught her on video right after the murder. Could she have been cool and collected if she was having a mental break that included believing masked intruders were trying to kill her? Maybe she did know what she was doing. On the other hand, all of the witnesses who testified described Annette as being unhinged that weekend, like she was on drugs. It's interesting that so many people recognized there was something wrong with her, and yet she was found guilty of premeditated murder. Don't you have to be thinking clearly and making calculated decisions for it to be premeditated? I will say that in all of the crying I saw Annette do on the stand, I'm not sure I ever saw actual tears. I'm also uncomfortable with how many times Annette's story changed in talking to authorities and her husband. I'm not sure I believe that she doesn't remember anything from that day when she seems to remember everything else from that weekend. But one of the worst things about this case to me was that Annette was simply allowed to never check into the hospital for a mental evaluation on the night she stopped at the high school basketball game. She was told she was allowed to walk away, and she did. And Robin Leonard sadly paid the price. As always, please let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm just a true crime fan like you are, and I really appreciate you taking a chance on me. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you like spending this time together. I would be so appreciative. Until next time, I'm Katie, and this has been Katie Does Crime.